In this video, I'm going to go over Microsoft and Windows and where I see it in the future. And let's first recap where it's been and really go over it, because so many people think I hate Microsoft or I hate Windows, and this is simply not true. A lot of my experience and most of my career has been using Microsoft systems, whether that's a Windows Server or Windows Workstation. Whichever one you use, I've supported it for the past 2 decades for the most part, pretty much since the early 2000s. So I want to dispel this, that I absolutely hate Microsoft and I hate Windows. It's not true, and honestly, when it comes down to it, I'm just disappointed and frustrated with Microsoft, and really that's what spurred the channel growth, and really what has made a lot of my YouTube channel is that whole Windows to Linux. That's what my whole primary purpose of this channel is, but also how that all came about, because I'm not your typical Linux guy that says, hey, Linux is superior in every way, because I've only been using Linux desktop for about 9 months now, pretty much since November of last year, and for years and years, I've always used Windows. And I really want to just kind of recap that, because honestly, you probably might be feeling the exact same way as I do. So first off, I absolutely loved Windows 7. I'm just going to come out and say it. I really liked Windows 7. That's a rare thing to hear any kind of Linux guy say, but overall, I thought Windows 7 was the pinnacle or the absolute height of Microsoft's Microsoft Windows product line. I thought it was fantastic as far as an operating system goes. It did everything I wanted it to do. It wasn't very intrusive, and it didn't come with a whole bunch of bloat. You installed the stock ISO from Microsoft, and guess what? You just got Microsoft Windows. And really, the first big channel video I had that really blew up, I think it's at like 500,000 views or something now, is the 10 reasons why I stopped using Windows 10. And what has happened is, in the past 10 years, Microsoft has gone from a great product in Windows 7 to a substandard product in Windows 10. These are just huge shifts. When I see someone making billions of dollars off a product, I expect that company to invest that money back into that product and produce a better product. But at the end of the day, almost every single Windows user out there prefers Windows 7 to Windows 10. It's because Windows 7 was simply a better product. And by better product, I mean there's just not much bloat. It performs better. There's just cleaner out of the box. The only thing Windows 10 has for it going for it is it looks a little bit better as far as cosmetic appearance out of the box. It forces updates down your throat. It does Candy Crush. Heck, if you really want to know all the things and the gripes I've done, watch that earlier video. The audio video is probably not all that great, as right when I first started out, but all those reasons still hold true today, and that's only about a year old as far as that video goes. And I absolutely don't like Windows 10 because of all the things it does. I still to this day, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people saying, oh my God, I'm so sick of trying to use my Windows machine and then having it force updates, or it just updating at random times. You see it on gaming streams and those types of things where all of a sudden it says Windows is now updating because that person it just randomly decided to update, or they didn't set their off hours properly, or a Microsoft update popped through that they absolutely wanted to force through, and that person suspended that update too many times and it said, too bad, it's time to update. So there's all these different reasons, and like I said, check that video out if you want to know. It's not just those two, but those are probably the two biggest gripes, is the bloat. People don't want to see Candy Crush on a fresh Windows install, and they certainly don't want to be told when they should update their computer by a company, period. It just shouldn't happen. So that's really where I come from. I loved Windows 7. I used it for gaming. I used it for everything. But now that's going away. People are being forced to Windows 10, and they're just not liking that experience. So what am I doing? And the answer is I've switched to Linux. That's my main deal, is I have gone from being a full-time Windows user of almost 20 years to a Linux desktop user, which is really weird because I never would ever have thought to hear those words coming from my mouth. But I've been doing it for 9 months now. Since November of last year, you can see my whole progression where I started out just complete noob, and then I've slowly sought out so many white papers, been educating myself, getting better at Linux, because so much in Linux desktop, there's just so much more to learn than Windows. And the fact that I'm so comfortable with Windows and have been using it for 20 years also doesn't help things, because there's a big learning gap between the differences between Windows and Linux. They're fundamentally a lot different, and that's a good thing. But a lot of people have come and said in comments, hey, you're just another Windows basher, or you just really hate Microsoft or have some vendetta against them, and that's simply not true. I owe my entire career to Microsoft. I still support Microsoft Server, Microsoft Windows, the workstation, all these things I still do today. I do it at my day job, and guess what? It's about how it was 9 months ago. I still stand firmly behind that Windows 10 should be a lot better than it is. Microsoft has completely squandered away all this time and all this money that Windows has made, and just made a far inferior product. And guess what? Linux is getting to the point where everyone can use it. Linux desktop is simply amazing, and I'm still learning so much about it. I still have so much more to learn. So when I make videos on this channel, I always figure out what you might want or the problems you might encounter with Linux, and I try to make a video over that, because I think that is extremely powerful. It's very needed, and something that is needed in the Linux community. So when you see other Linux creators make videos to help new users out coming to Linux, I think that's awesome. I always encourage that. I always promote that, because at the end of the day, Linux adoption happens when people are well educated on it. And too many people think that it's a Linux versus Windows kind of face-off, and it's really not. At the end of the day, I just want to use my computer. I just want to be able to use my computer how I want to use it. And Windows no longer gives me that option. That's the whole reason why I started down this path. That's the whole reason why I do what I do. But I just wanted to say to you, give it an option. Give it a shot. What do you have to lose? At the least, maybe you lose some time, but you now know there's a choice between Windows and something else. So I wanted to make this video just to kind of clear the air that I don't hate Windows. I don't hate Microsoft. I just wish they made a lot better product and didn't squander all this money and time to make an inferior product than what they made 10 years ago. Because to me, that's just ridiculous. And how can you defend that? I don't get that. I don't get the YouTube comments saying Windows 10's perfectly fine. It's not. They added telemetry, they added spyware, they added bloat to it in the form of Candy Crush and other applications that you didn't consent to installing on your system. And you're paying for all this. Why? Why would Microsoft continue down this path? And I think Steve Jobs said it best. When marketing runs a company, it's completely lost. And that is probably a paraphrase of what he actually said. But I think what's happened to Microsoft is it has no visionaries, it has no future, it has no people there that really care about us, the end user. They just simply don't care anymore about what that experience is like. They just look at us as dollar signs, ways to make money off of us. And really that's why I went down this Linux path, why I continue to educate myself about it, and why I continue to make educational content for Linux. Because it's so important to give you the option. And I always encourage other people, when it comes to Linux adoption, really what that's all about is you and I talking to people around the world in your current circles about Linux. Because most people don't even know what it's about. Don't even know you can run it instead of Windows. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not quite there. The gaming's not quite there. It's getting there, though. There's just literally a couple games that we're waiting on. We're waiting for easy anti-cheat so we can play our first-person shooters. We're waiting for like Oculus VR and those types of things that are only on Windows. But for the most part, a majority of our games are there, and it's really not a drawback for a gamer anymore to switch to Linux. And a lot of these excuses we've made in the past about not switching to Linux, because I'm guilty of making these excuses. I'm guilty of saying, it doesn't play my games. I can't do my workflows in Linux. And now that I've been doing it for 9 months, anytime I'm on Windows Workstation, I'm more frustrated than I've ever been in Linux. So when I see people in the community or people outside the community make a Linux video and say all these myths of yesteryear, things that may have been true 5 years ago, they just keep regurgitating it. And you know what? It's just wrong. So I'm going to start calling people out when they make a BS video. If I see something, let me know in the comments to the worst Linux introductory video by your favorite popular YouTuber, whoever it might be. If it's Linus Tech Tips, if it's another YouTuber, let me know in the comments. What's the worst Linux video you've seen that just spouts a whole bunch of mistruths? Now, I want to make a kind of a clear the air here. It can't be super old. 5 years and older don't count. It has to be somewhat recent in these Linux videos. But let me know in the comments, because I want to make some reaction videos. And I'm going to just do like maybe one a week, sprinkle it in there. And this is probably not going to be a popular thing on YouTube. But at the same time, I think we need to react to some of these people that just keep spouting the same lies over and over that maybe once were true, but are no longer. But with all that said, again, let me know in the comments. And a big shout out to my patrons. Without you, I couldn't make videos like this one. And I'll see you in the next one.